What is up, everybody? Purple and Gold podcast for Wednesday, March 25th. LSU defeated Louisiana Tech last night 15-5 via run rule in 8 innings. And is Will Wade coming back to LSU? We've got all the latest on that. Let's start with LSU's run rule win over Louisiana Tech. Tigers started this game much the same way they've started a lot of games, and it's very poorly. Louisiana Tech had a walk and a single against Reagan Ricken. Jake Brown had an overthrow at third base, trying to make the throw to third to get the guy out. He scored. Runner went all the way to third, and so after a ground out, it was 2-0. Louisiana Tech. Reagan Ricken got out of that inning. LSU scored 2 runs in the bottom of the first on a 2-run single by John Pearson. It was a nice response to get LSU back in the game and not let those bad feelings linger. Ethan Plog came into the game, pitched a scoreless second inning. LSU scored 5 runs in the second, all after 2 were out, highlighted by a Jake Brown 2-run single right past the shortstop between short and third. He took an outside pitch, punched it through. It was 4-2. He would come around to score, make it 5-2. LSU would add a couple more runs, and at the end of the second inning, it was 7-2. LSU got a couple of nice relief appearances from Zion Theophilus and later Grant Fontenot, who quelled a rally when Louisiana Tech had the bases loaded. Zach York woke up from a long home run slumber. He homered twice in the game, including a big blow, which made it 12-5. LSU would eventually add a 2-run single in the 8th inning from Omar Cerna to make it 14-5, and he would score on Derek Curiel's walk-off RBI double. The ball beat Cerna home by about 4 steps, but he made a great slide, eluded the tag, and scored, and the game was over. LSU was able to not use Gavin Guidry, Devin Sheeran, Zach Cowan, Jaden Newt in this game. The only 2 arms of note that they really used were Grant Fontenot and Santiago Garcia, and neither one of those guys threw a ton of pitches. They'll all be fine for Friday and beyond. My contention is that LSU will start Kason Evans on Friday, William Schmidt on Saturday, and I think the plan would be to start Zach Cowan on Sunday. However, if for some reason they did not use Gavin Guidry in the Friday or Saturday games, I believe Gavin Guidry would then start on Sunday. It was an uneven performance last night. Louisiana Tech's pitching was bad. They gave LSU a lot. It was good to see Zach York break out. It was good to see LSU score some runs. LSU still strikes out way too much. They struck out 11 times, I believe, including 6 with runners on base and in scoring position. They still strike out way too many times. They walk too many guys in the pitching side, too many wild pitches. A lot of the same things that will get you beat in the SEC were on display on on Tuesday night, but there were a lot of encouraging things. And so the Tigers will get ready to play Kentucky at home this weekend. LSU's 2-4 in the SEC. The leading teams in the SEC are only 4-2, though. LSU just needs to focus and concentrate on winning a series. If LSU can win this series and be 4-5 when this weekend is over, we can talk about a path back to the top half of the league and a path back to respectability. LSU's just got to play better. Simple as that. They've just got to put it all together. When they have the pitching, they don't seem to have the offense. When they have the offense, they don't seem to have the pitching. And the defense has let them down in close games. Lane Kiffin and LSU were out on the practice field yesterday, and Lane Kiffin had a press conference, a wide-ranging press conference where he talked about a lot of stuff. I enjoyed it. I liked some of the answers that he gave. I liked the fact that he's obviously in that Nick Saban school of the process. When he was asked about the expectations, he said, look, we don't put winning a certain number of games. We don't put, getting into college football playoff. Those are results. We don't operate off results. We operate off the process and what you need to do to obtain those results. Plenty of video out there of LSU's first practice. Sam Levitt was out there working with the receivers in individual stuff. He did not do any team drills. Whit Weeks was in attendance, but he did not work. Stephylon Green was absent. We did not get any clarification as to why, but it's one of those things that not everybody is going to be out there on every spring practice. Lane Kiffin did say they started this spring a little later to try to have as many players available as they could, players who may have had off-season surgeries and the like. Prized five-star freshman defensive tackle Richard Anderson was out there, and all of the early reports are that he looks very good. Jordan Seaton looks very good. He's really changed and transformed his body since he's been here at LSU, and he seems primed to be one of, if not the first, left tackles off the board in next year's NFL draft. So let's get to the Will Wade story. We talked yesterday, and we've talked in past episodes about everything that's going on with Matt McMahon and LSU basketball and Will Wade. And very early this morning now, a lot of the national outlets and people on the NC State side are now reporting on this. And there are a lot of reports out there of what we talked about yesterday, that LSU is targeting McNeese State Athletic Director Heath Schroyer for an associate AD position at LSU. And there's been some reporting that I think expands on this a little bit to say he would be in charge of basketball and he may be in charge of some of the quote unquote Olympic sports. And so why is this important? Well, quite frankly, Will Wade's not going to come to LSU without Heath Schroyer. That is what is being reported. So if LSU had any intent of hiring Will Wade, they had to hire Heath Schroyer. Will Wade would be, Heath Schroyer would be Will Wade's direct report. It would not be Verge Osbury. And I think that was the last person, the last domino that needs to fall. I expect LSU will announce the Heath Schroyer hire in the next 24 to 48 hours. NC State officials did meet with Will Wade today. They are expected to make him an increased salary offer. They are expected to make him some additional NIL promises. Look, they're going to do what they can to try and keep Will Wade. I will just say this. I think the Jeff Landry, Lee Mallett, Dr. Wade Roos, Heath Schroyer alignment is not anything NC State can overcome. At this point, I think if at any point in time Heath Schroyer is named LSU's Associate Athletic Director, I believe Will Wade will be LSU's next basketball coach. For those who don't know me prior to this podcast, many, many years ago when LSU hired Will Wade, when Will Wade was at VCU, Will Wade was the guy that I wanted. I identified Will Wade in my list of candidates, and my experience with Will Wade when he was here at LSU was nothing but positive. He brought LSU to multiple NCAA tournaments. Granted, he only coached in one of the four. One was canceled by COVID, or one of the three. One was canceled by COVID. One, he was suspended. But he took LSU to a relevant spot in college basketball. It was an obvious witch hunt. He was obviously a scapegoat when he was let go. It was done to protect the football program. It was done to protect the overall athletic department. The NCAA wanted their pound of flesh from LSU. They wanted it from Scott Woodward, and Scott Woodward gave them Will Wade. If Will Wade were to willingly come back here, I can only tell you that the amount of love and support that Will Wade will get will be off the charts. There are a lot of fans and a lot of media members and a lot of people who, in and around the state of Louisiana, who never stopped liking Will Wade, never stopped rooting for Will Wade. And of course, when he was at McNeese those 2 years, a lot of those same people were donors and boosters. And I know a lot of those people would be over the moon ecstatic, and you can count yours truly as one of them, if and when Will Wade returns to Baton Rouge. Um, we will find out, I think, in the next couple of days. Like I said on Schroyer, I would not expect Will Wade to be named as LSU's head basketball coach prior to April 1st. So on April 1st, his buyout drops from $5 million to $3 million. The college basketball transfer portal window doesn't open until April 7th. So there's really no reason to not try to save the 2 million bucks. I think the decision's already been made. I think Will Wade's coming back here. I think it's just, everybody's just trying to line up their ducks in a row. LSU is, Schroyer is, Will Wade is, and I think anything that McNeese and NC State try to do will be in vain. So I am now going to say I expect that Will Wade will be LSU's next men's basketball coach, but it may not be announced formally until next Wednesday or Thursday. There's already a zillion reports out there. The NC State guys on their side, their moderators on their sites are already reporting that it appears that Will Wade is gone, and you've started to see the vitriol from the NC State side. You've started to see the Ole Miss side come out of the woodworks again with their same nonsense about LSU. And so LSU is going to be a villain. They're already a villain with all the Lane Kiffin stuff. They'll be a villain in some people's eyes if they rehire Will Wade. LSU baseball is the 800-pound gorilla, right, with eight national championships. Kim Mulkey's a villain. This is just the way it is, and I wouldn't spend too much time worrying about it. If you're an LSU fan, if you're like me, just lean into it, right? And just appreciate the fact that maybe LSU is going to get Will Wade back here, and maybe LSU is going to be relevant in college basketball again. We'll be back tomorrow to talk about any of that and all of that, and we'll get you ready for the weekend. LSU and Kentucky. Obviously, the Lady Tigers in the Sweet 16. We'll see if Kim Mulkey can overcome Duke again and possibly overcome UCLA and get to the Final Four. As always, like, share, and subscribe. Be good to one another. And always, 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 go Tigers.